my message here is that mom guilt is not fucking necessary. Mom guilt is not something that helps us with anything. So we can make a decision not to do it. Hello there. You're very welcome. This is Lioness Tribe with Lisa Fox, and I am Lisa Fox. And today I am here to talk about mom guilt. And I want you to stay to the end of this video if you can at all, or if you're watching the replay, just stay to the end because I want to just remind you and tell you a little bit more about my upcoming workshop. But it all ties in with what I'm talking about. So I want to wait till the end to talk about it. So I'm sure most of you here know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the words mom guilt. But surprisingly, these two words are something that I had never ever heard of until I had my first child. So my son Louis is now 3.5, just over 3.5. And in that first few months, I went back to work around. I mean, I was only working part-time at the time. I had a performing arts school and I only had 4 classes a week at the time, but I only took like 3 weeks before I went back and started teaching again after I had him. And that was my choice, and that's what I wanted. And I absolutely do not regret that choice for a second. But at the time, I mean, before I had him, it was a no-brainer. I was like, yeah, I should be fine going back after 3 weeks. In retrospect, I kind of go, oh, maybe I should have waited a little bit longer, after birth to start teaching kids again. Um, but like I did that, like those first 3 weeks of his life, I, as you know, I lost my whole identity. I lost who I was, and I thought I was never going to find it again. And then as soon as I walked back into the classroom, I was like, and I'm a person again. I am not just a mother now. And you know what I mean by that. It's not about being just a mother, but I felt like with the mothering thing, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And suddenly I was in a classroom. I was like, yes, I know exactly what to do in here. So I was like, and it felt like that work was just for me. So, but as the months went on, so like I think he was 2 or 3 months old when I realized, I was kind of feeling this, like I was kind of questioning myself, going, I kind of feel bad when that I'm leaving him to go and teach other children. And I kind of felt bad that I felt so good about it as well. And I also felt bad, um, like when I was that when I because I had him, I wasn't able to give my work as much energy as I probably would have been able to give it had I not had a baby. So when I wasn't actually teaching in the class prep and all that sort of stuff, I was like, oh God, I should be doing so much more. And because I had a baby, I couldn't do it. And I was like, just kind of walking around with this feeling of I should be doing something else all the time. And I said it to my sister, who had 3 kids already herself. I was like, what is this fucking feeling that I'm feeling? And she's like, yeah, that's mom guilt or mom guilt or whatever way you want to say it. And I was like, huh? And she's like, yeah, we all feel it. It's that feeling of like, no matter what you do, it's not good enough. Or no matter what you're doing, you feel like you should be doing something else. And it's kind of part and parcel of being a mother. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? You know what? Don't even talk any more about it because that's not for me. I do not subscribe to that. I'm not doing that. Um, and I would love to say that that was the last time that I felt mom guilt, but of course it wasn't. But the thing is, knowing about it, being aware of it, and deciding to not subscribe to that actually did change everything for me. And what it does now, when I realize that I'm feeling it, it means that, like, that awareness of it is, it's a constant decision for me now. When I realize that I'm feeling it, there's a constant decision to just go, no, do you know what? I'm not going to do this, and I make that decision over and over and over again. And every time I make the decision, that decision is a little bit stronger. And every time I make the decision, I'm a little bit more aware of the power of that decision. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't creep in for me. But my message here is that mom guilt is not fucking necessary. Mom guilt is not something that helps us with anything. So we can make a decision not to do it, right? It's not, we can't make a decision not to ever feel it. Maybe, well, maybe you can, or maybe I will in time, be able to never ever feel it. But what I can do is to have a decision that where when I feel it and I'm aware of it, that I can tune into it immediately and go, nope, not doing that. That shit is not for me. And here's why. Here's why I don't subscribe to it, and here's why I don't think you should subscribe to it either. I think from the minute that we are born, us girls, we we're kind of born into this set of mixed messages. And actually, I would even go one step further and say that it's not just mixed messages that we get, we're told lies. Right from the get-go, we're told lies. And I don't mean that, like, there's a specific person that tells us a lie. It's kind of the world tells us this lie. It's cultural, it's societal. But this lie going around from the moment that we're born that says that us girls have to be good girls, we have to do everything that we're told to do, we have to put up our hand before we speak, we have to keep the head down and do everything that we're supposed to do. We have to be the best. We have to be the best girls in order to succeed, right? If you do all that, if you're in school, if you're the good girl, you're the best girl, you're diligent, if you do everything you're supposed to do, you will succeed then, right? And so we do it, and we are the good girl, and we always put up our hand before we speak, and we are diligent, and we subscribe to this way of being because we don't know, because we're told and we're taught that that's how we're supposed to be. And even if we're not like that, we're told we're wrong for not being like that. So if you're not like that, you've got this sense that you're doing wrong all the time, right? And so you think that, well, I'm not, you're basically learning all the time that you're not going to succeed if you're not a good girl, right? And so we've got that fuckery going on. And I like, and I'm not going to apologize. I was about to apologize for being angry about this, but I'm not going to apologize for being angry about this because it's, how else should I be about it other than angry? When you consider what we're told, the thing is, that idea that if you're not a good girl, you won't succeed is a bag of shit. It's a bag of shit. It's a total lie. Think about it. Boys are taught something different. Boys are taught, and they might be told, oh yeah, you should put your hand up, but and you should be a good boy, but actually what they're rewarded for is their confidence. What they're rewarded for is their boldness. What they're rewarded for is kind of the opposite of everything that we're told. And so subconsciously what they're taught is actually what they need to be to succeed is confident, bold, and outrageously themselves. And that's the truth. That's the truth. That's how you succeed. I have learned this the long way around. I've learned this by going through my life being a good girl and doing all the things that I was supposed to do and being really diligent and being perfect and coming out the other side and realizing very painfully and very confusingly that I wasn't succeeding, or I wasn't succeeding to the level that I knew in my heart and soul I was capable of. And I was like, and I always was like, what's what's wrong with me? I was told that I would succeed if I was a good girl, and I was a good girl and I didn't succeed. So what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? It's so fucking confusing. Whereas actually what I've learned over a process of oh my God, trial and error, and making all these mistakes and unlearning, what I've learned by unlearning this shit is that actually confidence is the big ingredient to success. Confidence is actually, it's not that competence is not important, but confidence is way more important, because what's the point in being really, really good at whatever it is you're doing if then you're going to say, well, if you're going to play small and be like, well, yeah, I could probably do that, but I'm not really sure, and I'm basically not being confident. Like if I think about a plumber, and I always use this example, but if I think about a plumber, my toilet's broken, and a plumber comes and says, I tell them the problem, and I say, can you fix it for me? And they go, well, I have my plumbing qualifications, and I'm a really good plumber, but I haven't actually um fixed that kind of problem in a couple of weeks now. So, but I should be able to do it now. It shouldn't be a problem. But you just bear with me, and blah blah. I'll probably go, oh, do you know what? You're all right. I'll find somebody, I'll find somebody else, or oh, leave it with me. I'll think about it. Whereas if a plumber came to the door after I, asked them to come fix my toilet, and I explained the problem, they're like, yeah, that's grand. Here, give it to me. I'll just go in with the tools and I'll fix it there. I'd be like, here, take my money, fix the problem. You're grand. Because their confidence will have told me that yes, they can do the job. No matter, I don't know, and I actually don't care that much whether somebody is competent or not if they can get me the results that I need, right? So we, from the time we were so tiny, were told you have to be perfect in order to succeed. But that was a big fat fucking lie. We actually have to be confident in order. We have to be capable, but we also have to be confident, more importantly, in order to succeed. But here's how this links into to mom guilt. That idea of being perfect, or having to be perfect in order to succeed, in order to do the things we want to do, in order to be allowed to do the things that we want to do, continues on into motherhood. But it actually is amplified by motherhood, right? Because by this stage, you're just going along with your life, and you're, ticking off another box that, of something that you thought that you wanted, or that you did want, by having a family, without actually realizing that, like, now, if you're a working mother, now you're going to think that you have to be perfect in your working life, and, ultra competent, and the best girl and the good girl, in order to succeed in your working life. Plus, you have to be a perfect mother in order to be a good mother, and in order to succeed as a mother. So that's a problem doubled, and it's a problem amplified. And that's why this became so clear to me when I became a mother. All of this stuff that I kind of had an inkling about, and then I became a mother and I learned about mom guilt, and I was like, okay, so that's just double. That's just double what I was already feeling. And I was like, okay, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. But it's not a straw, it's a big, big fucking boulder that broke this camel's back. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Um, so, like, we now think that we have to be not just perfect at work and not just perfect at motherhood. We have to be perfect at both. And so we're set up from the very beginning to feel like we are failing all the time. Because here's the problem with perfectionism. Perfectionism actually just stops you. Perfectionism always just makes you feel like you're failing, because perfection, number one, doesn't really exist. Or if it does exist, it's only in little moments that you're going, progress, 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 progress. And suddenly you have a moment of, oh, great, that actually went really well, and that was perfect. And then it's gone, and then you're on to the next problem. So it's like a never ending cycle. And perfectionism, actually, for most of us, doesn't it doesn't cause us to be more determined, or it doesn't cause us to actually achieve more, or do anything better with ourselves. Most of the time it just stops us dead on our tracks. It stops us because we go, well, there's no point in doing it if I can't do it perfectly. And if you're a working mother, how the fuck are you gonna do anything perfectly? You've got too much on. You have too much to do in order to do anything perfectly. So what's the point if it's not going to be perfect? And I am not willing to let myself be held back by that anymore, especially when it's such a bag of shit, especially when there is no merit in being perfect at anything. There is, it's an unobtainable, impossible thing that nobody else is actually doing, even if they make it look like they're doing it. And for us working moms, it's only causing us overwhelm. It's only causing us guilt all the time. Whether if we're at work, we feel like, there's this huge cultural message and this other side of our brain that's telling us we should be at home with our children, or we're not doing a good enough job with it. We've sacrificed our children because we want to work. And yet, when we're at home with our children, and or when we are working as well, we're thinking about our children. We're not actually doing our job uh, perfectly, and we just feel split in two all the time, um, and feeling bad all the time, right? And I just want to eliminate that, because it's not necessary. It's not helpful. And what would be better than feeling, you know, that I'm failing at everything all the time, is to just decide, to just allow myself to decide what it is that I actually want for myself, and to allow myself to actually be at work when I'm at work, and have my child care system work for me, and when I'm at home, to enjoy being a mother in so much as it's possible to enjoy being a mother. But you know what I mean, to actually be present with my children when I'm with my children, and when I'm at my work, that I don't feel like I'm failing as a mother. You're not failing as a mother just because you've decided that you're going to work. You're allowed to work. You're allowed to feel like you're allowed to do something just for you. You're allowed to be a breadwinner. You're allowed um to hang on, my phone is doing a weird thing. Okay, sorry. Um you're allowed to be a mother. You're allowed to be a working mother. You're allowed to make the choices that you make. You're allowed to kick ass at both. You're allowed to be completely imperfect at both, but still make progress all the time, and still make a huge fucking difference in people's lives, and make a huge contribution to the world, even though you also have kids. And you're allowed to lead the way for your kids as well. You're allowed to let your kids see you being a kick-ass mother. Do you think that your husband or your partner or their dad gives a second thought to the fact that he's going out to work in the morning, and probably thinks about his children very little? Or if he does, it's not in terms of like, oh my God, I'm failing as a father because I'm working. um they're not thinking that, and they're right not to think of that, because it's not necessary. You know that when there's an issue that needs to be dealt with your family, you are fully going to be there for that. You also know that you can do an incredible job in work. And I'm just so fucking fed up of this lie that we women have to be perfect all the time in order to succeed, and that bleeding into um motherhood, and doubling the trouble when we get into motherhood, Because here's what's actually truer. When you become a mother, as you well know, you actually become much better at your job. Because when you become a mother, you actually become more efficient, you become more focused because you have to be more focused all the time. You become basically a superhero who is unstoppable and can do anything that needs to get done. Um, so we need to own that a little bit more. But the problem is that we've been trained so well. We've been we've been programmed. We've been programmed so well to think that we have to be perfect that it's very, very difficult to let go of that idea. And again, I just want to emphasize that I am not immune to it. And most recently, and one of the something that came up for me where I didn't even realize I was doing this myself, and it was my husband, my beautiful feminist husband, who pointed it out. Now, he's like me, he's not a perfect feminist, and he's not always, um, conscious of all these issues, but he was a hero in this moment for me. When Louis started Montessori, I had just had Nina, and she was, I think she was, I don't know, let me see, she was born in July, so she was only a couple of months old when he started Montessori. And the first month and a half, actually, the first couple of months, Sean was at home. Why? So I think Sean actually just started work around the same time as Louis started Montessori, and I was like leading up to Louis starting Montessori. I was so afraid about how I was going to manage getting up and dressed myself in the morning, getting Nina up and dressed, and getting Louis up and dressed, and getting him a lunch, and getting him out the door for 8:45 a.m. In fact, it seemed impossible. And I don't know if it was just because I was breastfeeding Nina, but it was partly that because I hadn't breastfed Louis for that long and I didn't know how it would go. And I didn't know how, like, do you know, like, all I knew was that when she needed a feed, she needed a feed, right? And she was feeding a lot at that moment in time. So I was like, how can I even put her down for long enough to make sure that I'm going to get out on time? Am I going to be dealing with a crying baby for the full morning while I'm getting and it was just getting really overwhelming for me in my head. And I didn't even think to talk to Jean about it until just before Louis started Montessori. But then when I did, I was like, I told him, and as far as I remember, he can correct me if I'm wrong. I was crying about it, going, I don't know how, like, I'm gonna have to get up so early in the morning, but Nina's feeding all the time, and if I get up, that doesn't mean I'm gonna have the time to do this, and I don't know how to figure it out. And Sean was like, but why is this just your problem? Like, he just, as simple as that, he's like, why is it just your problem? And I was like, well, because you're like, you have to go out to work. And he's like, yeah, you also have to work. Like, yeah, and I was working, I was back working already. He's like, but you're working. I know you're working from home, but like you're also working. Like this is our problem to figure out. And I was like, oh my God, why had that not occurred to me? I'd taken on the full load of that. And I was also taking on that meaning that like I was failing in some way because I couldn't figure it out. And he was like, okay, let me just talk to my boss and see if I can like, what time I absolutely need to be in work for, because maybe I can get Louis up, ready, dressed, and out the door. Maybe even bring him into Montessori every morning. And I was like, oh my God. And then what I really was crying about was that I thought I was further along than that as well. I thought that I had eradicated mom guilt for myself, and I so hadn't. But thankfully, like Sean was so like, why is this your problem? And it was so true. So, but that moment also just again emphasized for me how important it is not to subscribe to fucking mom guilt. Um, and also it, even though like he in that moment was the hero for me, it pointed out for me that I need to be that hero for myself much more often. it's up to us to break the cycle. It's up to us to decide that we're not going to subscribe to mom guilt. It's up to us to like to own what is stopping us and decide that it's not going to stop us anymore. And this is why I'm so focused on this topic, and this is why I decided to do the workshop that I'm doing, because I find that I talk to so many women about this in the free sessions that I've done, that I was like, this actually needs to be a broader message. It needs to be a broader conversation. And I think the perfect way to do that is through a workshop. And my workshop is on the 5th of May, and it's at 1 p.m. and it's called Lioness Method: How to Drop the Mom Guilt, Stop Apologizing for Being Alive, and Be, Do, and Have everything that you want. And what I'm going to be talking about in it is basically that in order for us to stop suffering this ridiculous mom guilt, what we really need to do is decide, first of all, that we're not going to do it, and then start really owning our desires. Because this is the big thing that mothers forget about when we become mothers. And we forget about it because we think we're supposed to, right? We think that we're not allowed to have desires for ourselves anymore. We think that we are now a second class citizen. We think that we're now a mother first and a human being second, but we are not. We are human first and we are mother second. And we get to still have desires for ourselves. Believe you me, the more I have stepped into my own desires, the better a fucking mother I have become. And I can tell you that from first-hand experience. And I just want to inspire other mothers with this, because when you start identifying, acknowledging, owning, allowing, and valuing your own desires, then you are on the path to true confidence. Then you are on the path to actually manifesting your desires. Then you are on the path to being a leader in your family who teaches her children through doing, not through telling. So many mothers tell me that they want their child to have everything that they want. They want their child to be happy. They want their child to have the best in life. And yet they're not willing to ask themselves what they actually want. Not that's and the first step to having what you want is asking yourself, what do you want? And they're so well programmed to be a good girl, and to be, to put themselves at the very bottom of their own list, and to be a supporting character in the movie of their own life, that they kind of go, well, all I want is for my children to be happy, and all I really want is for everyone else to be happy, and then I can be happy. And that is not how it works. Everybody else does not get to be happier because you've put yourself at the bottom of a list. And this is what I want to talk to you about in my workshop. And this is why the workshop that I am preparing is, I think, going to be such a breakthrough for so many people, because this is what I've been working on with people in my free calls. And every free breakthrough call that I have had with every person who has signed up for it, they have all had a huge breakthrough. And now I'm ready to actually give that breakthrough to people en masse, or for as many people who want to do it. I only have so many hours in the day, and I'm only able to give 3 free breakthrough sessions in a week. But I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do this workshop with a bunch of women all at the same time, 20, 50, 100. I don't know how many. I'm going to try. My aim is to do this workshop, I'm going to do it once at least and see how it goes, and then hopefully it'll be a regular thing. And we'll have group breakthroughs, and believe me, group breakthroughs are so much more powerful even than individual ones, because you get that individual breakthrough, but you also realize that other people need exactly what you need. They need to hear the same things, they're having the same life experiences, and they're having the same breakthroughs. And that is so powerful when you do it in the presence of other women. So I hope that you are going to set that date aside in your calendar, 5th of May, next Wednesday, this day week at 1 p.m. And by subscribing to this workshop, you are unsubscribing from Mom fucking guilt. Okay? Remember, confidence plus faith equals success. Bye bye.